This is the Diamond Hogs Podcast with Mason Choate and Robert Stewart.
Welcome to the Diamond Hogs Podcast. I'm your host, Mason Choate, joined by my co-host, Robert Stewart, and producer, Christian. Okay, so things are going to go a little bit differently this next week. So rather than saying this at the end of the episode, I figured I would say it at the beginning because I feel like some people probably drop off by the time we get to the end. So this episode is going to be recapping the Alabama series. We're not going to do the normal hour-long recap. This is going to be a little bit shorter. There is less to talk about if you couldn't guess. And then, so this is going to be coming out on Monday. So you're listening to this on Monday. Tuesday, we're going to have our preview of the SEC tournament. And that is also going to be shorter because we don't want to have to give you guys back-to-back hour-long episodes. And then moving forward in Hoover, Robert and I are going to be in Hoover. We're going to do post-game recaps for every game as long as Arkansas goes. So that is the schedule for the week. Want to get that out there. But this episode is the Alabama recap. And Robert, rather than me saying what I feel, I want you. Right now, Robert is faceless. If you're watching on YouTube, I want you to tell us what you thought of the Alabama series this weekend.
Yes, that's correct. I'm reporting live from the Shadow Realm today. Yeah, I tweeted in response to the Game 3 loss a clip from SpongeBob, and that's really all there is to it. Ugly. It was ugly. I mean, you give up 6 runs in an inning 3 different times in a matter of 18 innings, and 5 or more in 4 different innings. That's just bad. I mean, that's just bad baseball. Like what else is there to say? I mean, you know, I think we want to get into this later too, but you know, there were a lot of folks on Twitter that were like, journalists, they don't have the balls to ask Dave Van Horn tough questions. It's like, what do you want asked? What could he say that would satisfy you? Like, there were short answers. There's nothing to say. It's just bad baseball.
Yeah, I think, and we talked about this right before we started recording. I think that all season long, for the most part, it's been like this team can't hit or they can't hit with runners in scoring position. But this weekend, it's not like Arkansas hit the ball bad. It was the pitching that lost them 2 of 3 games. And we'll get into that. We'll talk about how it happened. And before we get to all of that, I want to remind you, as always, hitthatline.com and the Hit That Line Podcast Network. We are part of that. That's where you can find the Diamond Hogs podcast. We're available on the Hit That Line Podcast Network. That is wherever you get your podcast. Just type in Hit That Line. If you're listening right now, then you probably already figured that out by now. So congratulations. If you want more content from them, go to hitthatline.com and read Robert's recaps. Listen to other podcasts. You can listen live to whatever is on the radio at the time, because Hit That Line is ESPN Arkansas. It's like the same thing. And you can get all of that at hitthatline.com and check them out at hitthatline.ar on Twitter for live updates. And that's where they tweet all the podcasts. They live stream the shows there on Twitter. So you can find all that there. And also HawgBeat.com. We're on the HawgBeat YouTube. Robert would wave, but he doesn't have a face. So faceless Robert just waved there. So HawgBeat YouTube, subscribe. You can find all the press conferences, the Diamond Hogs podcast, the HawgBeat Hour. Alex Trader does some recruiting breakdowns as well. Go check that out and check out all the content over at HawgBeat.com. It is worth the subscription because you're going to get more in-depth coverage of Arkansas athletics than anybody. And I actually met with somebody this week this week, talked to them, and they're like, hey man, what you guys do at HawgBeat is just way better than anything that's out there right now. Like, it's way more in-depth than anybody. And I thought that was great, and I thought it was also true. So go to HawgBeat.com and subscribe. Okay. Also, Chinook Seedery. We've been having like an influx in orders since we talked about the cinnamon toast, but I ran out of my bag of cinnamon toast, Robert, and I'm very upset.
Yeah, they're good stuff, man. I mean, like I said last episode, I honestly just eat them for breakfast now. They're awesome.
I ate probably 3 or 4 bags of Chinook seeds watching games this weekend. Christian, you have some Chinook seeds on your desk at your place. You eat those while you're playing the show?
Yeah, I'll throw a handful of those in while I'm playing the show, and I haven't had the cinnamon yet though. I need to get that soon.
Do you have a favorite flavor of the ones you've had? I think I told you I like the jalapeno ranch best.
Yeah, mine is the Parmesan. Let me see.
Parmesan and pepper.
Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's my favorite. But I have a bag of jalapeno ranch right now that I'm working on.
Parmesan and pepper is good too. I've had about 3 bags of that so far. If you can't tell, I'm a big seed guy. So if you're also into sunflower seeds and you want some, go to chinookseedery.com, use code DHP10 to check out. You can get 10% off your order, and it will be worth your money because they are amazing. And it's postseason baseball, so you need some seeds. Like that's a must for postseason baseball. Okay, let's get into it, guys. So before we recorded before the big news on Thursday of Will McIntyre was going to be in the starting rotation, not Hagen Smith. So we haven't even talked about that on the podcast. I think actually, I don't know. It's hard to say it was a good decision when you lose 2 out of 3, but the one game that they won was the one that Will McIntyre started. So Robert, what do you think?
Yeah, going back to, you said we recorded before we found out that was actually a lapse in reporting on the press corps. None of us failed to, or all of us failed to ask, if the rotation was going to be the same. Dave Van Horn told us after the game Thursday night that he was just waiting on somebody to ask because he knew that was the plan all along. But yeah, like you said, I mean, the one big change was Will McIntyre getting the start, and he was, without a doubt, the most effective of the three starting pitchers this weekend in Tuscaloosa. He got through 4 innings, gave up 8 hits, 3 runs, but if had he stayed in for one more inning, he would have been in line to get the win, because Arkansas scored 5 in the top of 5th inning to go ahead. So yeah, I like the decision, honestly. McIntyre was effective. I mean, I think, we talked about this a while ago, right? Like if things don't continue to improve for, Hagen Smith, Jackson Wiggins, then let's see what a 4th guy like Ramage or McIntyre would do in a regular season start. And, I think he gave you the confidence that he's a serviceable option going down the stretch here where the games are about to get really, really important.
I think the way I looked at it was I think McIntyre deserved it. I think he earned it. Like, there's no question about that. The way I look at it is, one, they had been planning on starting him game 1 of the SEC tournament. I think that would have been a good decision. 2, if you look at it, yes, Jackson Wiggins had done better his past few outings, but I think Hagen Smith has been a better pitcher on the road overall this season than Jackson Wiggins, at least in SEC play. I'd have to go back and look at his stats. I know like both of them have gotten shelled. So it's not like one or the other has done really, really good. They've both been pretty bad on the road. I feel like Hagen Smith had the edge on him. But Dave Van Horn, I was listening to the pregame radio for Thursday, and he basically said we wanted to give the 18-year-old some rest. And I get that because he's a freshman. I mean, it's a lot to be a freshman starter in SEC play. So I don't know, because now you look at it, Hagen Smith did throw on Saturday, not very many pitches. So let me see, how many pitches did he throw on Saturday? Hagen Smith, 37 pitches. So he also gave up 5 runs. Oh my goodness. I don't know. I thought. Go ahead, Robert.
He and Wiggins both gave up 5 runs and didn't throw that many pitches. So, I mean, you heard Dave talk about it in the last press conference. Like, Wiggins and Noland are both options to start game 1 Wednesday in Hoover, which is, I mean, how do we feel about that for real? Because like it seems like any of them could start, right? McIntyre would be on 6 days, 5 days, 5 or 6 days rest. So he should be fine. Noland didn't throw too many pitches because he struggled, so he should be fine. Smith and Wiggins should be fine. I mean, it seems like everybody's an option, but like, who do we feel comfortable with?
I don't know. Nolan threw 81 pitches. McIntyre threw 79. I don't think I feel comfortable starting either of those game 1 just because you want to give them some more rest. But with Wiggins and Smith, I don't know. That's tough. That is very tough. I just thought it was funny that you said Will McIntyre was the most effective of all the starting pitchers this weekend, yet he gave up 8 hits and 3 earned runs in 4 innings. It's like, that's how bad it was. That's your most effective starting pitcher. Because if you say Will McIntyre gave up 8 hits, 3 earned runs. Basically, any other weekend, you're like, okay, well, I mean, somebody else had to have done better, but they didn't.
Right. But at the same time, those stats alone, like they need some more context. Like he did a really good job of escaping jams and limiting damage, right? Like he did give up those 8 hits. He did walk 2 guys. And I think yeah, so that's 10 base runners right there. But if you leave 7 of them on, then that's pretty effective.
Yeah. So let's get into it real quick. Let's not do our normal. We're not going to do our normal like this is what happened every inning. This is how everybody scored, especially for Saturday's game. Like that would just be pointless. But the game that they did win was Thursday's game, as we mentioned, the McIntyre start. McIntyre gave up 2 runs in the second, gave up his third in the fourth, and he ended up getting through 4 innings though, which was good. You mentioned it, Robert, and I was watching the game with Christian. We both saw it. There were a couple just unlucky bounces, especially on hits over to third base for McIntyre. And you mentioned it there, Robert, but like you're right that what the stat sheet shows does not show, well, this was an unlucky bounce at third, this was an unlucky bounce at second, and it ended up scoring 2 runs on this play or something like that.
Right. And the other big storyline from Thursday night was the 2-out hitting. That in the 5th there, when there were 2 home runs from Stovall and Wallace, all of those runs, all 7 runs came with 2 outs. Those 2 home runs were huge, and then the 2-run double in the 9th from Jalen Battles. So you mentioned it earlier, like we talked about how offense has been the problem recently. Offense was not the problem this past weekend. It won them the game, no doubt. Thursday night, it kept them in the game Friday night, and 5 runs is still pretty solid on Saturday. You're just hoping for a better pitching performance, which it wouldn't have been hard to do if they got another chance.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then also on Thursday, you saw Chris Lanzilli back in the lineup. He got 2 hits. We'll do weekend MVPs later on, but he's the weekend MVP for Arkansas. So it was good to see Peyton Stovall, though. He was back in the lineup, got a home run. That was a big thing. And then Battles, I kind of mentioned it on Twitter, I think, but he's been a very up and down hitter. Or maybe it was in my key takeaway story from game 3, but he's been a very up and down hitter this year. And he hit the ball well this weekend. I think that's good for Arkansas moving forward. But you look at it, Michael Turner goes 0 for 4, 2 strikeouts. Like he's in a slump right now. He's down to 300. He's hitting 300, and he's been leading the team in batting average for basically the entire season. So that's one of those guys in the lineup that they need to get going. We'll talk about that in tomorrow's Hoover preview. But Turner moved down to the 6th hole on Saturday, I think.
Yeah, it was the 6th hole.
Okay, Robert, just stay unmuted because I don't like having that gap.
Just do what?
Just stay unmuted. I don't like having that gap in between when we talk.
Okay.
Okay, you just muted yourself again.
Unmute.
Unmute.
Okay,
stay
sorry.
Unmuted.
Okay.
We're not even going to cut this out because that was just, I said stay unmuted 3 times and you muted yourself again.
I am trying to look through this box score for you. Yes, Michael Turner was in the 6th hole. And we saw a lot of lineup changes on Sunday. Braden Webb was hitting second. We talked about this before we started recording, but he feels like he's been drawing a lot of walks recently. Had a really good day out of the 2 hole. Went 3 for 4 with a home run. Dylan Leach drew in a designated hitter again. That was a choice. Like I don't know how else to say it.
I think I feel like it's hard because you don't want to just like slander a guy because like I don't know Dylan Leach and I don't watch him in practice. Dave Van Horn does, and that's why he was in the lineup. But from the sample size that I've seen from Dylan Leach hitting an SEC play, aside from 1 hit against Texas A&M, it hasn't been good. Play him in the midweeks all you want, but on the weekends, I just do not get it.
Yeah, I have to wonder how things are different if he doesn't get that double in College Station. because like this one appearance on Saturday, he popped out, struck out, and grounded into a double play. In
What
4
I
at-bats.
tell you before the game, this isn't me slandering him. I'm not slandering him. I'm just saying from the sample size that we've had from Dylan Leach this season, my prediction was we'll get 2 strikeouts from him in a pop-up. I got 2 of the 3. And the other was grounded into a double play, which is worse than a strikeout.
Right. Yeah. So don't know how to feel about that, but going back to Chris Lanzilli, he's now the team leader in batting average. We had this discussion recently. Does he belong in the lineup? I think after this weekend, it was a resounding yes. He does belong in the lineup.
And
Go ahead.
Okay. I talked to somebody who is close to the team. It's a family member of a person on the team. And they told me that basically what Chris had heard was he was getting benched because of how he was hitting with runners in scoring position. I don't know what the stat or what the average is for him hitting with runners in scoring position. I'd have to go to Christian. We just need to share like the official NCAA stats page with you so you can look that up. But that's for future reference. But either way, we thought that it was because of the way that he fields, but he's been told that he fields the ball well, like he's good in the field. So I guess we were wrong. It was about him hitting with runners in scoring position.
Well, then just move him to a different spot in the order then, right?
Yes, I'm not the coach.
I mean, he had 2 really, really important hits on Thursday in the win. Like he broke up the perfect game. We failed to mention that Alabama's pitcher Garrett McMillan had a perfect game going through 4 innings. Leads off the 5th with a single, comes around to score, and then chases him in the 6th with another hit. And then what else did he do? He had two doubles, 3 hits on Friday. If they were going to come back and win, it would have been because of Chris Lanzilli. And then he had a hit and a walk in the blowout loss on Saturday too. So I mean, the guy's finding a way to get on base. He's now the team leader in batting average at 316. That's pretty impressive for a guy that was not drawing in the lineup the last few weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Christian, did you have any takeaways from Thursday's win before we move on?
Yeah, just he had some unlucky hits, like you were saying earlier. Some through the shift. They were talking about it both sides, like Bama and Arkansas were like, we got a couple of hits what normally would have been like the normal routine double plays. And they were just like hitting the spots where like people weren't at that they normally would be. So McIntyre just got a little unlucky. He had, like you said, he was the most effective guy over the weekend.
Yeah, that was another thing. I tweeted that out. Like some people do well with the shift, unless you're Arkansas baseball. Arkansas, I genuinely do not remember a time this season, offense or defense, the shift has helped Arkansas. Robert, do you?
Not really.
When has it helped them defensively? That's the more important thing. Because like offensively, sometimes you can't help that. Like, yeah, you can try to hit against it, but sometimes it just doesn't go your way. That's how it works. But defensively, you're shifting because you're trying to give yourself an advantage. And it never gives Arkansas an advantage. It almost always makes it a disadvantage, and runs can score sometimes.
Right. I mean, I feel like there have been some deep ground balls into shallow shallow right field that Robert Moore's playing way deep. Like it's like sometimes that works, but then there was a play this week where that situation that I just described was happening, and it was maybe Slavens or Stovall at first tried to run over and make a play that Moore easily would have made because he was way back there, and then it turned into a fielder's choice, or it didn't result in an out. There you go. And it's like, at least if you're going to shift, you need everybody on the same page. So I don't know.
Yeah. One more thing, and we're taking longer to do these recaps. It's fine. We might not even talk about Saturday's game, but
there's nothing to say.
Yeah. One more thing. So my bold prediction for the weekend was Evan Taylor. There was 5 combined innings of scoreless ball. He threw 2 innings on Thursday, got 4 strikeouts, gave up just 2 hits, no runs. And I was like, okay, we're looking good. We're looking really good. And then, of course, everybody knows what happened later on. Well, I mean, we'll hit on it. I'll just go ahead and say it. Let's see. Let me pull up the stats.
He didn't give up any earned runs.
No, he didn't give up any earned runs, but he gave up the rest of Hagen Smith's runs, right?
Yes.
And then he also gave up 2 unearned runs in 2/3 of an inning. He faced 6 batters and he only got 1 out, I believe.
Yeah, I mean Saturday was just bad. Like I think the 9-hole hitter hitting an opposite field grand slam already up 11 was kind of like, if you had to narrow it down to one play, that was it.
That was against Miller Plyman, right?
Yes.
When Miller Plyman came in, I texted you, Robert, and I was like, Miller Plyman, if you're putting Miller Plyman in, this basically means you're giving up. Like, no offense to Miller Plyman, but I mean, he's thrown 1 or 2 times this year?
Right. That's definitely just raising the white flag. Like, I mean, when was the last time we said his name on this podcast? Was it when he started against whatever in-state team he started against in early April? Like,
yeah, he started one midweek, I think. But I mean, he, aside from the grand slam, which was unfortunate, he did have a 1-2-3 inning, right? What inning was that? The 7th or the? It wasn't the 8th. That was Starks. It might have been the 6th.
The 6th. Yeah, he walked the leadoff guy, got a double play, and then struck out Diodati.
Okay, we're getting ahead of ourselves though.
That's to say that we're done talking about Saturday. Let's do Friday.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Friday's game. Okay, so Connor Nolan started this game. This was the game that I felt most confident about going into for Arkansas, but Connor Nolan looked fine for a little bit there, and then he just got shelled in the 5th.
Yeah, he did. And that's the thing too, is like he retired the first 7 hitters he faced. And now that I'm looking at my scorebook, I think the play I was talking about where Stovall cut off Robert Moore in the shift, that broke up the no-hitter. It was scored a single, and he got out of that inning, but he was cruising. I mean, it cost him.
Yeah,
he faced 6 hitters in that 3rd inning, so he could have been the second out on the second hitter, but he was cruising. That screwed things up, and then. Again, not a bad game at the plate by any means for the Hogs. Like, they scored 6 runs. I feel like they hit pretty well with runners in scoring position too. Let me pull it up.
Well, I mean, going into that bottom of the 5th where Nolan got rocked, Arkansas was up 4-1, and you felt good about it at the time. Like, you're like, okay, Arkansas's cruising. If you can get, I think it was a situation where it's like, if you can get another 1 inning out of Nolan, get to the bullpen, you're going to be just fine. And then Alabama scores 6 runs in the bottom of the 5th, and you're now down 6-4, right? Wait, no, 7-4, because Alabama has scored 1 in the 4th.
Right. Yeah, it's a pattern. I mean, we've talked about it before, but like, Connor Nolan gets to the 4th or 5th inning, and then it's like hits, bam, 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 and you don't even know what happened to you. Like, you don't have time to adjust. And it seems like Van Horn tried to address that this time in the 5th inning. Like, he faced 5 hitters. Dominic Temez singled off of him, and he pulled him in the 5th, and he went to Zach Morris against righties. Like, that was how bad it was for Connor Nolan, is that he opted to bring in a lefty to pitch to righties. And Zach Morris didn't look like he had it either, right? Like, he didn't record an out. He faced 4 guys, didn't record an out. Alabama hit around, sent 11 guys to the plate. The first 9 guys to hit all reached base. Like, the only out was a fielder's choice.
Yeah, that was one of those, like, in the moment you're watching that and you're like, what is going on? Because Arkansas just could not get an out to save their lives. And Nolan was it was hit after hit after hit. And then Zach Morris comes in and you're like, okay, Zach Morris, this dude has torn it up in SEC play. And like, they were just, I don't know if it was Arkansas pitching, like they were throwing too much easy stuff over the plate for Bama, and they were just taking advantage of it. Because I mean, before coming into the series, Dave Van Horn said he told Connor Nolan to just throw strikes and trust his defense. Maybe that wasn't the best decision.
Right. I mean, I don't remember which game it was. Maybe Texas A&M, but like Connor Nolan, he doesn't give up extra base hits really. It's death by singles always. It's just it's the strangest phenomenon. And like you said, I mean, they're gonna have to have a different approach with him, I think, because whatever's going on these last 4 or 5 weeks is just not working.
And another thing, I saw somebody say on Twitter, I don't know who it was. Somebody said Dave Van Horn is notorious for leaving his pitchers in too long. And that is just absolutely false. This season, yes. But in prior seasons, he had like the shortest leash ever. Like he would pull guys very, very short from the moment he saw that they were struggling. This season, it's been different. Have you noticed that, Robert?
Yeah, I have.
So that's just, I think that that's a false statement. And I think maybe that displays a level of trust that he has in his pitchers to figure it out. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened. So I don't know what has happened to the starting pitching, because you look at it a couple weeks ago, and not even a couple weeks ago, probably like a month, 2 months ago, like that was Arkansas's bread and butter. Like you might not get the hits you need, but you know that your pitching is going to do well. And now we're going into Hoover, and it's like, who do you even start? Who do you even trust to start? And I think right now, I mean, is Will McIntyre the only guy that you trust to start a game right now?
Yeah, it's Mr. Golden Spikes 2020, 2023,
Yeah.
Uh, we ran a poll on Twitter on Sunday. Today we're recording this Sunday, about the level of concern with Razorback baseball right now. And the most interesting reply here is about the starting pitching, right? The ERA is 7.26 since the A&M series. Nolan has allowed 5 runs the past 3 starts. Jackson Wiggins' ERA, what is it officially? It's close to 6.
Officially, Christian, do you have it pulled up?
But it's near 7 in conference play.
No, it's 5.92 on the season.
Yeah, overall, and higher in SEC play. Smith has been inconsistent. Yeah, we know that. Success starts with starting pitching, and that has fallen apart. So this person, Mitchell Meyer, hey Mitch 91, is very worried. I think that's valid.
Yeah. We'll talk about that here in a minute as well. It is worth mentioning. So Arkansas was down 8-4 in the 7th. They had a homer. They got a homer. No, it wasn't a homer. It was a 2 RBI
2-run double.
2-run double from Lanzilli, and that made it an 8-6 game. So I mean, it's 8-6 in the 7th. So Arkansas has 2 more shots after that in the 8th, and the top of the 8th, top of the 9th. And what'd they do? Top of the 8th.
Battles hit into a 4-6-3 to end it.
And then top of the 9th.
They had 2 guys on, and they had a pitcher, left-handed pitcher, Brock Guffey, in the game for 2 innings, and they brought in Dylan Ray. I guess I don't know if that's their closer or not, but they brought in one guy to face Chris Lanzilli, who represented the go-ahead run with 2 outs in the 9th. So Dave Van Horn was like, if there's a small positive to take away, it's that he's hitting really hot right now, and at least they brought their closer in to face him.
Yeah. Okay. So Arkansas ends up losing that game 8-6, set up for the rubber match on Saturday, and Arkansas lost 18-5. That is that's your recap. I mean,
should have just called it after the first inning.
7, 8. So Arkansas threw 8 pitchers in this one, and they were, yeah, you're right, they were up 2-0. Then they give up 6 in the second, and it just took off from there.
Yeah, I mean, two hits with runners in scoring position in the first, go up 2-0. Jackson Wiggins goes 1-2-3 in the first, and then the rest of it's just a nightmare. So
yeah,
that's enough of that.
I think I just want to say this. There's a few bright spots from that game. One, you mentioned it earlier, Braden Webb in the 2-hole hit the ball really well. Battles, he went 2 for 3. Let's see. It was Lanzilli also had a hit. He had an RBI. And then I don't know if it didn't mean anything, but you got Trest, Plyman, and Starks in that game. Hagen Smith threw a little bit. He got shelled as well, but it's just like you got your pitchers in there to get some time and live action on the mound. Even though you were losing really bad, Like, it's always good to get guys on the mound in a live game.
Well, especially considering that they have the potential to play 5 games in 5 days next week.
Yes.
Like that, I mean, that is going to be good. Like they're going to have to use a lot of arms in the span of as many as 45 innings.
Yeah. Okay. Weekend MVPs. Let's get to our weekend MVPs. Okay, guys, can we just, as a podcast, name Chris Lanzilli the weekend MVP for
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Because I don't think it's fair to give anybody else weekend MVP, especially given what Lanzilli has gone through, being benched for. I mean, we've heard excuses. We don't know what it is, but he goes 6 for 13, 4 RBI, 2 runs, 4 singles, 2 doubles, struck out once, and walked once. So
I mean, there's nothing else to say. Chris Lanzilli is your weekend MVP.
That's your weekend MVP at the plate, and then on the mound.
It's tough.
Okay, let's let producer Christian go first. Christian, are you ready? This is your time to shine, buddy.
Gotta be Ramage.
Okay.
Was it 3 2/3 with 6 Ks over the weekend?
Gave up 1 earned run.
3
Yeah.
different appearances, and the 1 earned run didn't come until Saturday in the blowout.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good choice.
Yeah, Ramage looked good. That's good seeing him look that well going into the tournament. So he'll probably be someone that DVH is going to rely on. So we'll see what happens.
Ramage, a possible starter, I would think at this point. Like, why not?
Oh yeah.
Okay, Robert, go ahead.
For me, it's got to be McIntyre. He proved that. Sorry, Mason. I know you're probably thinking about picking him, but he proved that he is, material. He's starter material. I think in a different game, maybe the Hogs don't bat for so long in the top of the 5th. He comes back out for the bottom of the 5th. I think Dave mentioned something about, he thought he might be cold, and so he didn't want to risk bringing him back out. But that was a pretty good performance. I think he still had some stuff left in the tank. Could have gone a little bit longer. We talked about it. 8 hits is sort of cruel because a lot of those were tough bounces or, shift beaters. But like I said earlier, he was the most impressive of the 3 starting pitchers. So that will earn you a weekend MVP on a bad weekend.
I pick Caden Wallace as my pitcher weekend MVP just to make Christian's prediction come true. No, I'll go Brady Tigert. I mean, really, Tigert, if you look at it statistically, had the best weekend because he went 1 2/3, walked 1, struck out 2, didn't give up a hit or a run. So
one of 2 guys not to give up a run.
Yep, him and Gabe Starks. Who would have guessed that?
Not me.
But by the time Gabe Starks was pitching, it was 18-5.
Yeah, it hardly mattered.
Yeah. So Brady Tigert, congratulations. You are my weekend MVP at the plate. And weekend MVPs were brought to you by the Encore Group. As we've been mentioning, Matt Grissom found out he received the Torchbearer Award, which means he's one of the top 40 real estate agents under 40 within all of RE/MAX nationwide. And that's out of 135,000 agents, which is about how many runs Alabama scored this weekend. So that is only achievable with a proven track record of getting results for his clients time and time again. So if you're in the market to buy or sell a home, visit sellingarkansas.com and let Matt and his team show you why they are the best of the best when it comes to selling real estate in Central Arkansas. Thank you, Encore Group, for sponsoring the weekend MVPs. All right. Let's wrap this puppy up. So tomorrow, you're listening to this on Monday. Tomorrow, you're going to have your Hoover preview. We're going to look at the tournament, talk the bracket, talk about potential matchups for Arkansas based on win or lose. And then probably, whenever you're listening to it, we may or may not be on the road. So, because we're hitting the road for Hoover on Tuesday. And we're excited. And then we're going to have post-game episodes for you. So anything else to add, Mr. Roberto?
I mean, we're thrilled about going to Hoover. Hopefully, we get to see some better baseball than the folks in Tuscaloosa saw this past weekend. But it's going to be a blast. So definitely stay tuned for all the content we'll be churning out.
Yeah, Christian, what do you think? What do you think going forward to Hoover? What's your mindset right now? Oh, hold on. I'm sorry. I'm sorry to cut you off, Christian. We didn't even talk about the media thing you want to talk about, Robert.
What? Oh, right. People saying like we need, or they're curious about what questions will be asked in the post-game press conference. Like that was the shortest press conference of the year. It was gonna be like what seriously, what did you want Dave Van Horn to say?
So the issue is there's a lot of people saying on Twitter and message boards that the media does not ask hard questions to Dave Van Horn because they're either scared or they don't care or they just need to ask harder questions. My response is, well, if you want harder questions asked or if you want a different question asked, then you can get credentialed yourself and ask him yourself. If you have a problem with the questions that the media ask, then maybe you should look at it from a perspective of that person has a story, they have an angle, they have whatever it is from what they're doing to make their content better. That's why they're asking that question. And then you have like sometimes TV and radio people who just ask whatever they want. But that's the media perspective. Christian, you come at it from a perspective of you're not in the post-game press conference. What's your thought process?
Yeah, I think what it comes down to is like, as we've talked about a lot this year on the podcast and just, and when we're hanging out and stuff, but Arkansas fans have been spoiled with how good this baseball program has been. So when they see them struggling a little bit, they're like, they want to ask the questions that they're going to ask their buddies or talk to their buddies on Twitter or on the phone, or they want those kind of questions asked. And, it's just not realistic. It's not, it's kind of dramatic and kind of just like, I don't know. I think the questions are fine, and I think his responses are fine. I think he knows they're struggling. He knows it's not looking great, and they want to do well. I don't know. I think it comes down to a lot of just sometimes we've been spoiled, and they just expect them to be great every week, every weekend.
Yeah.
Right. Where was I going with this? Like again, what do you want him to say? Because like you remember a few weeks ago, I think it was right before the Ole Miss series when people were camping out in line for the hog pen, and he went out there and was like, "We're gonna get the bats going for you today." We talked about this last episode. His words a lot of times are empty, and also like, how does he know? That's one that he can't have any way of knowing if they're gonna get the bats going tonight. Like,
Yeah.
I assume something like that is the desired response, but
One thing I just popped in my head. Do you remember at the beginning of the season when he said he thought this offense would be better than last year's?
Yeah.
Yes.
Do you think he kind of regrets saying that, and now he's kind
Yes.
of being careful with what he says, or he says stuff like what you said, like empty words, where it's like kind of just to get the media off his back?
I mean, I don't know if it's to get the media off his back, but like, it's just something to say. Like you have to sit back and look at it at some point and say, okay, he's just saying this. Like, this doesn't mean anything.
I think he's the head coach of the baseball team. He can say whatever he wants, first of all.
Exactly.
And second of all, whatever he says, we can only take that for face value, and we can only take it as what he's saying is what he's saying, whether it's true or not. We can only report what he says. And as far as the questions that are asked goes, like, what are you want us to ask him what happened with Jackson Wiggins? Like, first of all, that question gets asked. And second of all, I think that Dave Van Horn, who's been coaching Arkansas baseball for 20 years, I think that he knows what happened with Jackson Wiggins or why the bats weren't going or why he made whatever decision. I think he understands that better than anybody covering the team and anybody watching the team, aside from maybe a few people who are like really knowledgeable about baseball.
And also, I mean, one can be adventurous and try to take the tough question route, like myself, and ask about, why is the OPS leader getting pinch hit for? And then you'll get a really mean response. So it's he also kind of discourages you from asking tough questions.
That's another thing is like people are mad because they say that the media is scared to ask tough questions because they'll get their credentials revoked. It's like, well, sometimes that might be the case, and you can't blame the media for that because it's not their fault. Like, what do you want them to do?
Yeah, I mean, Mason and I gave a presentation in a class this year about the annoying thing that is working or trying to cover college athletics, because the universities keep such a tight lock on their athletes that it makes it difficult, and they threaten to revoke credentials. That's not uncommon. So it's just part of the reality that we have to deal with as people covering college athletics.
Yeah, and I don't think fans realize that too. Like, they don't realize that your jobs can be on the line if you say something kind of inappropriate or too harshly or whatever.
Well,
it doesn't even have to be inappropriate or too harsh. Like, if they misinterpret it, then we're going down a rabbit hole that we can save for another time. But.
Well, I do want to mention, what was it? It was when Bobby Petrino was the head coach of the football team. There was a reporter that wore some kind of Florida gear, or maybe it was like a Florida Gators hat, to practice one day, and Bobby Petrino made her, like, she wasn't allowed to attend practice anymore because of that. And so it's like, sometimes you have coaches who that's just what happens. And I don't think Dave Van Horn would ever do something like that, but there are coaches out there that, and it's not just the media, but like, it's the coaches who make the decision, because like you have your communications people and they just do their job. But sometimes the coaches, they just like, I don't know what the word is, but I guess they're soft. I don't know. I'm not saying Dave Van Horn is soft. I'm saying like there's some coaches out there that are. So anyways, you're right. Rabbit hole. We got to wrap this up. So we'll have that Hoover preview episode out for you tomorrow. And thank you for listening to the Diamond Hogs podcast.
You've been listening to the Diamond Hogs podcast. Follow the guys on Twitter at Choate Mason and at drstew32.